My wife passed away from something horrible. It took me a long time, but eventually I started to love again. This is the point where I met another girl who was about 10 years younger than me. But hey, we hit it off. Long story short, we get married. But I am soon to find out that this woman is not who I thought she was, and I should have listened to my best friend because this woman becomes an absolute nightmare. I'm 37 male. I've been married to my second wife, Kelly. She's 27 for 8 months. We met at a party related to my work, and she introduced herself and gave me her phone number. I'd not dated since the death of my first wife, and I guess I was flattered that someone much younger than me wanted to get to know me. She does not work for my company or for the other companies who were at the party, but was a friend of someone who did. I work for a financial firm, and so every few months we have these big mixed-up parties for clients and anyone we're trying to gain as new clients. I don't actually enjoy them, but it's part of my job. I find it really tedious having to talk to people, and with existing clients I have to be overly nice to them and make sure they stay with us. It's really not in my character, and it feels so fake. However, I'm good at it, so I do my best as it works in my favor to keep clients and gain new ones, as that's where my income comes from. I'm on a very good income, and it gives me a good life. When I met Kelly, I've been on my own for nearly 2 years following the death of my first wife, Melissa. Melissa and I met at university and stayed together while we both worked on building our careers. She was the love of my life in every single way. I thought I'd found myself a forever. A few years after we got married, Melissa started to feel very tired all the time, and she was working long hours. We didn't think too much about it until one day, she passes out at work. She was rushed to the hospital, and when I arrived, we were both convinced she just needed to take some time off to recharge and discuss how maybe we should go on a holiday somewhere, as we both could do with a rest. However, the doctors had carried out a number of tests when Melissa arrived to rule out things. And when they got the results, our perfect little life changed. Melissa was told that she had a tumor in her head, which was causing all the issues. Melissa was always the practical one, and so she immediately asked what treatment she needed. There was no hesitation, and she never once thought that she would not be able to beat this. Because I loved her and knew how strong she was, I never doubted her either. She began treatment, which was really hard on her body, and she had a couple of operations. She never gave up. Never. And you never saw her feeling sorry for herself. We were lucky that we had a family support, and our best friend James and Marcy, they live close by. Melissa and Marcy have been roommates in college, and we're still best of friends. Finally, the doctors told us that although the tumor had not gone, it was in a state that could stay dormant for years, even forever. And we celebrated. Well, I guess we celebrated too soon. It was only 9 months later when Melissa collapsed again, and we were told that there was now nothing the doctors could do for her. I was a mess. But Melissa was not even slightly fazed. She was strong in hindsight. I think that she was hiding her fear and distress from me, and Marcy has said that sometimes when I was at work, Melissa would cry when Marcy was with her. I wish she had not tried to be so strong all the time. Anyways, on the last birthday I celebrated with her, Melissa got me Odie. Odie's my dog, and he's my best friend. Sorry, James. I think Melissa knew that when she died I'd fall apart and would need something to help me hold it together and be my companion when she was no longer here. Odie is a German shepherd who has grown from a dopey puppy whose feet and ears were too big for him into a beautiful, loyal, protective adult dog. He's my everything. Melissa passed away on a beautiful summer day with her family and friends by her side, and for a while, I thought my life was over. I wanted nothing more than to join her, but Odie helped me get through it as he needed me for food and walks and attention. Over the last 2 years, I've mourned and pulled myself back into my life and work.
I still missed Melissa each and every day, and I always will, but I started to live again. Then I met Kelly. Kelly and I decided to take a chance on love, and from the start, James and Marcy disapproved of her. It was mainly Marcy who was against me marrying Kelly, and I just assumed it was because I've been married to her best friend, and she didn't want someone else replacing Melissa in my life. It was definitely the most difficult decision for me to make, as well, that I could maybe open my heart to another woman. I wanted to take things slow, but Kelly is like a whirlwind of energy. She came into my life and everything changed. I went out more, we went on trips, and I really began to just enjoy my life. I never noticed anything about Kelly which would suggest that she had a problem with me being a widower, and I was annoyed when James and Marcy suggested that Kelly was just looking for an easy life. I told them to stop being so close-minded because of the age difference and the difference in financial situations between Kelly and me. Well, Kelly was a waitress, and although she had wanted to study beauty therapy, it was too expensive. I said I'd be happy to support her further her education. Things got serious, and I asked Kelly to marry me, which I guess did seem like a rushed decision, as we've only been dating for 5 months when I proposed. My family and friends were not as keen on this as I was, and said I was just rushing things. One evening, James took me out for a drink and asked if I was sure this was the right thing to do. Well, to be honest with you, I got a little angry that he doubted my judgment. But he held up his hand in surrender and said that if I was happy, then I should know that he and Marcy would always be there. He suggested also something I had not thought about. Well, James is a lawyer, and he said I should put a prenuptial agreement in place, and I tried to push the idea away, but he said that if I was right, and this really was love, then it wouldn't matter, as Kelly would not leave me once she was entitled to my money, and if I was wrong, it would protect me. I realized he was not going to let this go, and so I said, yeah, bro, draft up the agreement and I would sign it, and Kelly would be asked to sign it before we married, and James seemed reassured by this, and plans went ahead for the wedding. Kelly, however, did sign the agreement, but she was not happy. She was upset that it meant that I did not trust her and saw her as some kind of gold digger. I said that was certainly not the case, and it was just something that was common in marriages these days. I admit I lied here, as I said it was something my work was asked for me in the earlier days of our marriage, as my financial assets were handled by them. Well, she was still not happy, but she signed it, and I did suggest that down the line we could probably just get rid of it, which made her happy. We got married, and she moved in with me. I guess you're wondering, why am I writing all this about my seemingly perfect life, but there's something that's bothering me, and I'm not sure whether I should be upset or not. I would talk to James and Marcy, but they already are against Kelly, and this would just give them more ammunition for the fire. Kelly and I have been married just over 8 months, and there are things about her that were not there before we got married. I'm not sure if I'm overreacting, but she seems to have changed. It's just little things, but I'm wondering if they're a sign of a bigger issue. Before we were married and she would come to this house, she was aware that I had photos of Melissa in the home. After Kelly and I got serious, I took down the wedding photos and stored them with Melissa's wedding dress in the attic. I still have photos of Melissa, but they're not in the main rooms. In the main rooms, I have the wedding photos from my wedding to Kelly, our honeymoon, our life together. The photos of Melissa are in the guest bedrooms where family and friends who knew her stay when they visit. The house does have mementos of my life with Melissa, as this was our home together, and we shopped for all the furniture, the artwork, the decorations, you name it. 2 days ago, I come home from work and I went to put some clean towels into our guest room as my parents were coming to stay and all the photos were gone. I checked the other guest room as I have a big house and there were not a single photo of Melissa left. I was confused and went to ask Kelly where they were. Kelly was sitting in the kitchen looking at brochures for wallpaper and furniture, and she looked at me and said, "Oh, I got rid of them. You need to stop living in the past. She's gone. I'm here, so yeah, I don't want her in the house." I was hurt to my core, and then I heard Kelly say this. "I've asked an interior designer to come and plan out the new decor. I'm not living in a dead woman's house. It all has to go. All of it." Well, I couldn't formulate a reply, so I took Odie for a long hike to cool down and think. So, this is why I'm writing this. Should I have thought about this before and realized that my new wife would not want to live with the ghost of my deceased wife, or should I be allowed to have some memories of my first love in my home? Not displayed in the main rooms, of course. I mean, I love Kelly. She's my wife, but I will also always care for Melissa's memory. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you guys are having a great day. So today's story has multiple updates. Let's go ahead and jump into number 1. And it seems like there was a lot of mixed reactions to the first post. OP opens up about some of that in update 1, so here it is. Some are in support and some calling me an insensitive a-hole in the comments I see. I guess I deserve that, but it's not a straightforward situation, is it? In response to those who said I was being insensitive, I strongly disagree. I've never compared Kelly to Melissa. They're two very different people at the end of the day. As soon as things got serious between us, I made sure to move any photos of Melissa to rooms that Kelly did not use, and they were there for the comfort of family and friends. I'm still very close to Melissa's family, you know, as I've known them for a long time. They still come and visit me so they can visit Melissa's resting place. They live across the country, and so it always made sense that they stayed in my home as I have more than enough room for guests. From the very start of my relationship with Kelly, I was honest about Melissa and that I was still raw at times for her loss, as we were married forever. It was also clear that Melissa's family was part of my family. It's not as though I suddenly got married to Kelly and went, "Surprise! Come and live in my mausoleum to my dead wife, and hey, just so you know, her family will be here at all times." Kelly was totally aware of the past and all these things. And when she moved in with me, I was open and honest about moving the photos into another part of the house. We have 8 bedrooms, not to boast, so Kelly can completely ignore that room. Also, I don't go and sit for hours looking at my dead wife's photos as some suggested. I only ever go in to change the bedding and leave new towels when we're expecting some guests. I hope that clears things up on that. Maybe I should have been more clear, and that was, well, what was upsetting me was that Kelly had done all this without talking to me. She never once mentioned that the photos upset her, or the decor was something she felt linked to my Melissa. If she had talked to me, I would have tried to find a way to sort things out, as when it comes down to it, it's just the wallpaper. What I can't seem to get over is that she threw the photos away. They're gone. I searched through the trash for hours that night, and finally she noticed and said, "I knew you would do that, so I shredded them." My new wife shredded all the photos of Melissa, and I hurried to the attic, and to my relief, all the wedding photos in Melissa's dress are still there. I called Marcy, asked her to come and get them. I told Kelly that all she needed to do was tell me it was hard, and I would have sent everything to Melissa's family or to Marcy. I explained that I was hurt, that she destroyed my memories, and she just shrugged, said that it was just a photo and I need to get over it. I've stewed on my hurt and anger for days, and I'm still flicking between thinking she was wrong and then flipped to thinking I was insensitive. Marcy and James think Kelly was completely in the wrong for this, though. Well, Marcy said she was a psycho, but she was never liking Kelly anyways. I asked them to keep the photos and I'd work on the solution. I said that maybe some new decor for the house would be good anyways, as it's not been done for a while. As I left the house, I heard a sound behind me as Marcy pretended to whip James. suggesting I was being whipped into shape by my wife. I was angry and things are not getting great between us at the moment. I can't cope with my best friends hating my wife. So, I talked to Kelly and explained why I'm hurt. She did make me some sort of apology, but I think it was half-hearted and I just don't want the fighting as I have a lot to work on. Well, I think a bigger issue may be brewing and I'm not sure what to do. Kelly mentioned that she did not want Melissa's parents to stay with us this weekend as it had been arranged. She said that they should get a hotel as she did not want to have to play nice to them. She said she thought they looked down on her and Melissa's parents are gentle, kind people and would never do that at all. Kelly also said that once the house has been redecorated to her taste, Odie was not allowed to be inside the main room. He had to be moved to the garage or a dog's house would need to be built. Oh boy, on that one, I put my foot down. Odie is my dog. Odie's my best buddy. There's no way in heck he's being sent out to live in the garage, no matter that the place is nice. He's used to company. I love that dog. This is the one thing I will not compromise on, ever. Alright guys, Mr. Edito here. So the next update did not come out for months. Well, here it is, update 2 just a few months later, and oh boy, prepare yourself. I've not updated this for quite a while, sorry about that. I got busy with work and never-ended redecorations, and I thought things were settling in. I'm a complete and utter idiot. I was just so blinded by my loneliness and the fact that a younger, attractive woman found me, well, attractive, that I was not thinking with my head. James had pointed out many times since all this went to heck that it was not my brain that was controlling my body. So it's gonna be a long, crazy ride. Please buckle up. In my last update, when I still believed my wife loved me, I was saying that things were going to get better. We were compromising and decorating, and I sent all the remainders of Melissa to friends and family. And I was trying to be a better husband. I like to think that I'm an intelligent man. I work for a huge business, make a lot of money doing complicated deals. But Kelly turned me into a gullible, stupid weakling, and I didn't even see it. Everyone else did, and I pushed them away. We'll start with the first time I should have seen the cracks in the fairy tale I thought I was living. Melissa's parents came to stay with us as planned, and Kelly was distant with them, but I put it down to her feeling uncomfortable as the new wife. Melissa's parents went out of their way to reassure her that they did not think she was replacing their daughter at all, and that they're happy that I was smiling again. The first night, things were okay. Kelly was quieter than usual, but hey, it went okay. Melissa's parents had a lot of plans of their own, so they weren't under our feet, and really, they were just using our house as a base. Until I came home from work, and well, they were gone. I didn't notice at first, as they were often out, but an hour or so after I got home, I get a text from James telling me to get my butt over here and do not tell Kelly. I thought something happened to Marcy, but when I got there, I was stunned to see Melissa's parents sitting on the sofa with their suitcases by the door. I asked what's going on. Melissa's mom tried to explain, but she just cried. Marcy took over and said that when Melissa's parents had got home from their trip, their suitcases were by the front gate. We have a walled garden with locked gates with a handwritten note on them. Marcy handed me the note and I read it 3 times trying to process what it said. My husband is a pushover. I am not. This is my house now and you're not welcome here. Your daughter is dead. She's gone and you have no right to be in my house. Never contact us again. Well, I read it 3 times. I could not believe what I was reading, and I wish I could have argued that it was not written by Kelly. But I knew her writing as she was always leaving notes around the house with things she wanted me to change. I shook my head slowly, trying to sort out the range of emotions that I was feeling. Melissa's dad said to me that he wished I had told him how Kelly felt, and they would not have imposed on us. It just gave them comfort to be in the house where their daughter lived and was at their happiest. I was horrified that they would think that was how I felt and told them that I had no idea that Kelly was about to do that. James and Marcy exchanged looks and pointed out that I was probably the one who had not seen Kelly for who she really was. I asked Melissa's parents what they would do, but they assured me that they would be okay as they were going to stay with James and Marcy. But they said they would not be able to spend time with me whilst I was married to Kelly, as it was obvious that she resented them, and they could not deal with that. I mean, I was heartbroken, but I guess I understood. After I knew they had somewhere to stay, I headed back home to confront Kelly about this whole thing. It was as though my whole life was crumbling and I didn't even recognize the woman I married. When I arrived home, the front gate was open, which is never how it's left. We live in a safe area, but it's common sense to have the security gate shut when you have valuable property and a dog. I drove in and closed the gates behind me before going to look for Kelly. She was sitting in the living room sipping on some wine. Didn't even seem slightly bothered that I was going to find out what she's done. She just starts talking about cushions and color schemes, and I held up my hand to shut her up. Asked her what she was thinking, kicking Melissa's parents out, just dumping their suitcases on the street. She shrugged and just sipped her wine and asked what she was supposed to do when I wouldn't listen, and I was causing her mental anguish. I slumped onto the sofa opposite of her, tried to explain that she could not treat people I cared about like this. She needed to talk to me and we would find a way around things. She laughed and said, "That's what I did. I found a way to make myself happy." I was sitting with my hand in my head when she casually said, "Oh, that filthy dog of yours out the gate. You must have left it open when you went running to comfort your dead wife's parents." I looked at her. I've been home nearly an hour and she only just mentioned that my beloved Odie was gone. I was on my feet and out on the street before she had even finished talking. I called James and he came to join me. We searched the area until it got dark. I desperately called Odie's name until I could barely talk, but there's no sign of him. Whilst we were searching for the streets and the places I'd walk with Odie, Marcy phoned all the vets and animal shelters in the area, but there was no dog that matched Odie's description in any of them. I couldn't think anymore. Without Odie, I'd lost everything that represented my old life with Melissa. I slowly went home and Kelly was still drinking wine and flicking through fashion magazines, not even slightly bothered by my distress. I went to bed that night in one of the spare bedrooms and tried to work out what I was going to do. It was as though I've been hit by a real brick, and all the things James and Marcy and so many others had said just ran through my brain like a movie. As I looked back, I saw things that I ignored, red flags that I pretended not to see, or just put down Kelly to being younger. All the selfish, cruel incidents I turned a blind eye were now pushing their way back into my mind. As I fell into a disturbed sleep, all I could think was how sure I was that I'd closed the gate when I left, and deep in my soul I could not escape the fear that Kelly had let Odie out to get rid of him, as I refused to put him in the garage. Was this my fault? Should I have protected Odie by compromising over where, he lived in the house? I told myself tomorrow was a new day. I'd work things out when I was less emotional, but deep down I knew nothing would ever be done. Update 3. Final update. As you probably noticed, I was an emotional wreck when I wrote the last update. I'm still not in a great place, but for a different reason, really. My marriage is over, it's done, and I'll never make a stupid mistake like this ever again. I vowed that I'll listen to my friends and trust my true gut instincts. James said if I ever think with anything other than my brain, he'll give me a decent smack around the head. The morning after Odie disappeared, I woke up and tried to process my next steps. I had to go to work. I had a big project, and no matter how much I loved Odie, clients would not understand I was taking time off of a missing dog. I didn't see Kelly when I left. She's still in the bed, and so it spared me the argument that was going to happen. I made it through the day, and instead of going home, I went to see James, Marcy, and Melissa's parents. I told them that I was ready to accept I've made a huge mistake and I wanted to separate from Kelly. James rolled his eyes and said, "Oh, finally." And we talked a lot about the complications of getting Kelly out of my house and starting the divorce. I guessed and was correct that she would not go quietly. So, there's a lot to process about the aftermath of that decision, and it could fill a novel, but the quick version is that James came with me when I told Kelly that I want a divorce, and she needed to find somewhere else to live ASAP. She screamed and cried and threw things at us, but I stood firm. I pointed out that we had a prenup and that it clearly states that the house is mine, and she'd get a settlement as described in the agreement. In what turned out to be another lapse of judgment, I said that she could stay overnight and arrange somewhere to stay. Well, to say that was a mistake in an understatement. When I got back the following afternoon, it looked as though a bunch of starving bears had gone through the house. Wallpaper shredded, she'd ripped the curtains down, pulled the stuffing from the sofas, and written some very child-friendly comments in paint on the walls about manliness. Marcy, who was with me, said, "I told you she wasn't right in the head." We took photos of everything, and although I was resistant, James told me to call the police as it would definitely help in the divorce. So, when the police arrived, they said I had grounds to prosecute Kelly, but I was not sure that I wanted to go down that road. Until I did. You see, when Kelly was throwing things around the house and basically trashing everything I owned, she wasn't paying attention to the things she took with her, and that's when she found a sheet of paper where she had written down the contact details for the person she had sold Odie to. My dog never ran away. She got rid of him. So I called the number and explained who I was. The person on the end of the phone told me that Kelly had contacted him saying that her husband died, and she now had a big dog that she couldn't handle. He'd been advertising as he was a dog trainer, and so he'd happily help her. Kelly had paid him to take Odie. With my money? Once I explained the reality of what it was really going on, he was happy for me to go and get Odie, and in gratitude, I made a large donation to his place, as he takes in dogs people no longer can handle. To say I was ecstatic to get my dog was an absolute understatement. Odie was equally happy to see me, and I promised him I would never let anybody hurt him again. Well, guys, all this was a few months ago. Now the divorce is almost finalized and I'll be free of Kelly, who I now agree is not a good person. She tried really hard to tear my reputation apart in court and to people we knew through work. But word got all about the things she did to me, my house, and my dog. Thankfully, Marcy has no qualms about spreading some gossip when it suits her. I'll be forever grateful to James for his advice about having a prenuptial agreement in place. I could have lost a great deal more than I did without it, so much came out during the divorce hearings about Kelly and the things that she's done in the past. I can't believe I did not see any of it. I'm not the first man she tried to take for everything they had. I was just the only one stupid enough to marry her. In conclusion to this sad tale of dumbness, who did not see the gold digger for what she was, I can give some closure because I will not be updating here again. So, just so y'all know, Kelly was arrested for what she did to my house. She denied it, but she never was bright enough, and we have security cameras that clearly showed her throwing stuff out the windows. And, well, through the windows. There was a lovely scene of her attacking the curtains with scissors. The dog trainer actually gave a statement about Odie, and I was supported by statements from James, Marcy, and Melissa's parents. It did not go well for Kelly, at all. The court made it clear that the agreement we had was all she was entitled to, but they then fined her for the damage to my home, and so she ended up having to pay me out of her settlement, which left her very little. I've redecorated the home, and the new photos of Melissa are back in the guest bedroom, where her parents can stay now again without fear of abuse. Odie's back in my house where he belongs, and the proud owner of a new dog bed, courtesy of Kelly's fine. Ironic, really, since she hated him so much, because I am a sucker for that dog. I've gotten him a friend. He now has a little sister, Lola. Lola's 7 months old and he loves her. For me and Odie, life is good. For Kelly, well, who cares? She reaped what she sowed. Last I heard, she was living in some cheap motel and back waitressing. Her reputation is in shreds and she deserves everything that she got.
Alright guys, for a little bit of the story, I can kind of understand why the new wife would be some sort of jealous, but at the same time, what she did is absolutely unexcusable, and I would have gone so much further if I was OP. I would have called the cops right away. I wouldn't have played around. I would have not ignored those red flags. But the part of the story that absolutely made me furious was when she sold his dog. The one bond that he had left with his wife, who passed away, was the dog that she gave him. And this dog was his best friend, and she cold-heartedly had the guts to sell that dog and sit at home on the couch sipping wine, as if everything was hunky-dory. Guys, let me know exactly what you would do once you found out that, hey, this girl just sold my dog. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, show a little support. Subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and leave a comment down below, guys. Have an amazing day, and remember, it's cool to be kind. I'll catch you later.